How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lo4f, and today I've just got a normal mission. It's not one of the contracts. It's called Old Ranch Rubble. I'll just say quickly, I only edited this in here just so I remember. When I turned my game on today, I got a warning saying something like some saves might not be compatible after the game's updated. I'll get to that in a sec. I just didn't really know where to edit it in the video, so I just kind of put it near the beginning. Yeah, for this one, Old Ranch Rubble, you just got to take one set of metal beams to kind of a ranch in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, go to the warehouse to build it. Like, pretty much build everything I've needed so far anyway from there. Yeah, going to drive along this way just for a different route. Going to use that old bridge that I built across the water. Going to kind of rally across the countryside instead of using the roads. Once I get the stuff, you can see the normal road. I'm just going to go round the other side of the warehouse. I was just curious at that point if you even could get round that way, or it didn't really make a difference because I could just do a U-turn like in the garage anyway. Yeah, for this mission as well, obviously got a goddamn horse for me. I'm using the, what's it called? Is it an International? But it's the HX520. It was a truck. I'm pretty certain, yeah. It's not DLC. Well, ish. I believe we got it with Season 4. It was the same season that like the GMC Brigadier 8000 or whatever it's called, that came out. That was the DLC. Yeah, we got this, and then I think we got the Zix, and we might have got something else, can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, long story short, this truck, to me at least, pretty much sucked in the Phase 4 maps, all the snowy stuff, but a lot of American trucks do seem to struggle more. They're not necessarily set up as like intense off-roading as the Russian stuff generally, but yeah, long story short, I never really used it a lot on Season 4 because I just really didn't like it. It made sense at the time. Well, it didn't make sense to most of us that had the game, but I believe around then they'd released this game on the Switch, so for a lot of people that might have, well, that's the thing, like, say if they bought the DLC, but unless they go straight to Season 4 when they got it, or did we just have it in the garage? We might have just had it in the garage. Anyway, if you had it on Black River and all that when you first started the game, it'd make a lot of sense. I'm sure it'd be a pretty cool truck to start with. But yeah, I've never really had much reason to use it, and then when I was looking at this mission today, I kind of figured for the most part it's going to be driving along these sort of dirt roads. There's going to be patches of mud here and there, but it's, you know, generally these roads are I can kind of cut across on the grass a little bit. And as well, though, there's only one lot of metal beams, so I don't need loads of trailers, don't need like a road train situation going on or anything like that. I might do a road train. I was looking at the contracts. By the time I got on the game today, tonight, this morning, whatever it is, I just didn't have, I knew I wouldn't have enough time to get that mission done properly and all the rest of it. Yeah, I gotta make some phone calls and stuff later, so I didn't want to get stuck into a mission that's too long. Yeah, but it was just a good excuse. I was going through the different trucks, and I suppose, yeah, I was just like, oh, I could use the Kodiak, could use the White Western Star, could use this, I could use that Brigadier thing. There's just all sorts, and then as I was flicking through them, I just got to this, and I thought, well, sod it. It's something that I really didn't use a lot. I did a review on it, so that's probably the most I used it, really. I remember doing a mission on Season 4, the first map. I just can't... Was it Erska River? I don't know, it just popped in my head out of nowhere. It might be that. And it just got stuck in the snow. It couldn't pull a trailer. But again, it's like the super snow that's just over the top and all sorts. So yeah, it really wasn't the right map for it. And so giving it a go today, I set it up pretty, you know, like the top engine, all the rest of it. Obviously got the sideboard on it, and a goddamn professional with me. As for tyres, I was looking through them, and obviously they don't have muds for a start. None of the, well, again, maybe the rare exception, but the American stuff doesn't. The chained are not even off-road. I believe it's the all-terrain tyres or something. I don't normally look at all the names like UAD and UOD and MHS, all that sort of stuff. Like, yeah, it doesn't really mean a lot to me, but I was looking through. I remember someone said in the comments, I believe UOD 2. I definitely remember 2, and I'm assuming they meant off-road instead of all-terrain. Yeah, so I went with whatever UOD 2 is. It's the off-road tyres. to me, they're just pretty much different grip patterns. I'm not saying that's literally what the case is. Yeah, I won't go into a whole tyre thing again right now, but yeah, I just generally, it's like, oh, muds, I like that pattern the most. Yeah, giving these a go, you can see for the most part, I mean, going along the dirt roads, it was doing alright. This sort of stuff is where, this is kind of why I brought this truck, or was, you know, happy to use one of the other early game kind of American trucks. I was even for a brief minute considered a highway truck like the Ford Clit or something like that, but yeah, just in the end, I was, as I say, as I was flicking through, seen this one and thought it's a good chance to give it a go. Yeah, along like here, it's not an official road that the devs have built and therefore nerfed to hell and all the rest of it. That's why I quite like sort of just freestyling across the maps, really. You used to be able to do that more. The first map, I think it was phase 1, really. It was Lake Coved. That really, like, the super snow, it's just, that's when that really kicked in. And it was like, unless you follow the roads, it just punishes you by making you go 0.1 mile an hour. But yeah, generally, I used to, like, just draw my own lines, go my own way. It depends which truck I've got. I might try and choose like a harder route, etc. Black River's a perfect example because you've got like the highway. I mean, if you literally wanted to use a highway truck, you've got like the dirt roads if you've got something that's, yeah, an early game truck or whatever, but not particularly, you know, like off-road specialist or whatever. And then yeah, as I've sometimes done, not necessarily in the review videos, but you can cut along, like basically sort of going as the crow flies for the most part. Cutting through water, yeah, going through deeper mud sections, all the rest of it, so you could kind of just keep making, like, depending on which truck you had, you could go a different way each time. This map, it's not, I mean, this is a good example of where it's not like this, but obviously it's fairly linear on this map that you sort of follow the roads for the most part. But that old bridge is, like, I say, that's pretty nice that you can just kind of cut along the countryside there. I did it when I delivered the stuff to build the bridge. It was just, you can follow the roads. They're not, it's not the end of the world, but yeah, it's a good chance to go off-roading. And like I say, because this thing hasn't got a trailer at the minute or anything and all the rest of it, it helps that it's just its own vehicle and travelling. The thing that's going to catch this out, like it would in the snowy maps, would be mud, basically, but unlike the snowy, the snows, or what would be considered super snow really, is everywhere. On these maps, if you measured it in truck lengths, it's like, you know, how many truck lengths worth of mud do you have to go through on the average mission on this? Obviously I've hit a bit of a patch now where I've leaned, I tipped over, I just switched to the Lo4f because I wanted to like winch my truck back up in one go. There was a little glitch there, so I just edited like 20 seconds out. It was just me faffing around with the winch points, really. Yeah, it's just for the most part, you're driving on dirt roads that ish, every now and then they kind of turn into mud a little bit on this this map. And then yeah, off-roading, kind of skirting around the mud sections. So I got out of that one, and as you'll see as I'm going along, like, again, this vehicle, it's flying along just fine. It's got a reasonably lenient high gear, so it does, like, even there, if I'd left it in high and all that, it wouldn't be that good going through there. It just wheel spin, but it's nicer than instantly giving you like the stalling sign. I just put, yeah, low range of the diffs on. I will say though, even though these tyres were cool, that I haven't tested all the tyres, but I'd be happy to agree they're probably the best tyres for this truck and possibly a bunch of the American trucks, because I've never been a fan of like the all-terrain version of the chained. A good example is the Derry, the big Derry. You get both choices of, like, you can have mud version of the chained, or the, I believe again, all-terrain version of the chained. And I tested both of them when I did the Derry. The mud chained absolutely wiped the floor with the all-terrain chained, which again kind of leans towards my point that it's not just flat out chained to chained, muds to muds, da da da. Like, there's got to be some differentiation, otherwise both those sets of chained would basically just resort to being chains. Yeah, these tyres though, and I'd be willing to say to a degree it's this truck, it's not necessarily just the tyres. As soon as you hit mud patches, it's just, yeah, like, that's it. But this thing has fuel tanks that don't sit particularly high. It's got quite a long wheelbase from like the front axles to the first rear axle, to where you can beach like mainly the fuel tank. You can see like the big side step and everything on it. And another thing though, this truck doesn't weigh a lot. In certain situations that can actually be pretty handy, because you can drop the hammer. There's not a lot of weight that it's trying to pick up to get flying down the road in high gear. But when you hit anything with resistance, it's just, and that's why it was so terrible in snow, it just doesn't have the weight to push down through like the top layer of non-grippy, slippy mud, whatever, snow. Yeah, you need trucks like the Zik 605R is just fat and heavy enough that it'll squidge straight through the slippy surface mud, find the grip underneath, and then keep going. And that's what I always found though with the chained when I was testing them on that Drownlands, was the chain seemed to bite through that crappy, non-grippy top layer and bite down into the layer underneath just quicker. It felt like, well, not just felt like, I kept getting quicker times on the thing I did there. By the way, I apologise, I probably missed about 10-15 seconds. Thankfully I saved the footage later when I did, because it must have gone just over 15 minutes. I drove out the garage, turned left, and then where the footage kicked in, I crashed into a fence thing. There's a little fence at the side of the garage, but it's, you know, completely solid. You smack into it, you're not moving it out of the way, you just bounce off it. And yeah, that's about it. Now I'm kind of using what I draw on the map. Like, well, you can see there is little tracks here and that, so it's kind of some sort of road. You can cut around both ways on the warehouse. Yeah, while I remember as well that bringing up that bloody, you know, your save thing can be incompatible. Yeah, I think that's pretty bad. I had an update it must maybe yesterday. I think that's when it came up saying update, and I just left. Obviously I'm not going to play it while it's updating. But it made me a little bit hesitant anyway, because there's probably been updates since then, but if you go back to around the time my internet went, a day or two before the internet went, and this is where I don't know if it was the game, the PlayStation, or my internet at this point, because I updated the game, the PlayStation, and then yeah, a couple of days later my internet all but disappeared. But I kept getting the blue screens and error messages and all that. And then it updated, and then obviously today I turned the game on and then it says, yeah, my saves might be incompatible. It's like, that ain't good enough, if you know what I mean. Like, if you bought a new car and then they just send you a letter saying, oh, by the way, your engine might be incompatible with the car, but, you know, unlucky, thanks for the money kind of thing. I appreciate it. I know the game's been out a while and all the rest of it, at least they're updating it. Certain games like Call of Duty and all that, old, not even old, just if it ain't the current game, it doesn't take too long before they abandon the servers and all the rest of it. But yeah, like, I don't want that message, because instantly I was like, oh shit, I best not have lost my data. If that says incompatible, there's going to be a problem. Thankfully, there's a goddamn horse of a vehicle. He managed to dodge that. He saved the day, he saved the save. Literally, save squared. And then, yeah, my game worked. I even loaded up, it must be my last playthrough, like, that I rarely go on. I've only barely started the game on that one. Yeah, but that's not good. And I did load the game up. I turned the game off and loaded it back up just to see if it'd give me the error message again. It didn't, thankfully, because I don't want that flashing up every time. But yeah, I just don't, it's like, that's not an acceptable error message. It's like, well, then make that shit compatible. Like, yeah, don't make it my problem. It's like, dip your hand back into the big fat bonuses. All the people at the top get paid. And then pay some employees and fix it to a standard where I don't then get an error message. It's like, otherwise, I just dip my hand into your bank account and say, yeah, sorry, the money I paid isn't compatible with your bank account, so I'm having it back. It's your problem. It's like, it wouldn't happen. I'd get done for theft. But yeah, with the particularly with the gaming industry, it's like they get away with stuff. I'm not as bothered as it might sound like I am with it. It's just the principle of, like, how do you get to tell me that, yeah, you've broke something, so it might fuck my stuff up, but somehow that was, like, cleared, like, yeah, put an error message to say that it might wreck their save, and it's like, yeah, no, pay more people, work longer to fix whatever error it is. Like, it best be compatible. In that case, it's like, don't update the game. I'd rather... It's taken me 2 years to build my save up and everything's how it is and where it is and all the rest of it. Yeah, if you're going to update something and then break it to where I've got to restart the entire game, it's like, well, that's a pretty pointless error to remove, because now there's no point. So, yeah, rant over, but that's what, they shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, cutting along here. As you can see, a minute ago, I tipped over. Thankfully, this trailer's got like the just enough sideboard that it didn't go, and the goddamn horse, once he was in the mud, when I drove past, it's like the trailer couldn't tip again because the loaf was in the hole. That's what she said. When I got to this point, the, what's it called, HX520, again, it's not got the biggest tyres, it doesn't sit amazingly high, and I was getting caught on stuff here. I kind of knew, if anything, this was going to be the area that was going to be a bit awkward. It was kind of handy at this point. If the loaf was still in the sideboard, don't get me wrong, for some weird sentimental reasons, I would keep him in the sideboard. I would mostly, yeah, reluctantly just sit here flooring it. But he's a goddamn horse. He's already out in time. And yeah, it was pretty handy. It's just a good example of like one reason I do genuinely like to take the loaf everywhere. Like, it became a mobile winch point to drag this thing. You also get like the winch bonus for the fact that you winched on something. It appears to give you like a little 10% grip boost or RPM boost or something. And yeah, it was just handy to be able to drag the HX across because it was catching on something. And if I just stayed driving in the HS, I could fire a winch out. Well, assuming there's a winch to get, because this is my point. I just winched to something there. And I went to do it this way. I'll winch here for a bit, but the problem is I already know the HX520 is not going to be using low range or diffs and all sorts. Like, the zombie winching's handy for certain situations, but crossing a river like this, it's just... Like, the loaf's got diffs always on, for example, so if I get in the HX and winch to the loaf, it's still got diffs on, etc. Yeah, so I don't lose as much from a zombie winch, but anything that's got switchable diffs and all that, you always lose that every time you're in the other vehicle. Yeah, you can see the winch point's gone. Maybe because the loaf drove over it. I refuse to believe that. He's weightless unless he needs to be. Yeah. Point being, though, there's no winch point there. And I just did the lazy thing, kind of winch from the side to another winch point, and now I've flung one out to the goddamn horse. But if there was no winch point there, do you know what I mean? I'm sitting there wheel spinning for ages. That's when it's like, right, choose a YouTube video. I'm squeezing the throttle for 5 minutes, but I'm barely looking at the TV or anything. Yeah, this way is just more enjoyable. I got over the river enough, fired one out to the loaf, and he's goddamn professional, so he drags me out there, hassle-free, and then we're off again. And at the minute, I mean, I've pretty much retired the the HX520. I'm in loaf mode. And then someone had to interrupt the video. The amount of people that use my driveway to turn around, I swear to God, I'm going to put a toll there at some point. I'll be a millionaire by the end of the year. Yeah, I'm in loaf mode now. The HX520 can take a back seat. See, there's even another, not only another goddamn horse of a vehicle, but there's even the same colour. Just, it's like a doppelganger loaf, just in case you need a backup. Like, what is, I mean, they're colour matched. The amount of times I just randomly pick a colour. Obviously, I can't physically have more colours now. I've used every loaf colour multiple times over, so I just kind of go through and like, yeah, that one looks nice. And just by chance, I keep picking the same colours. So yeah, he's matching pretty well. Driving along here at this point, if I was in the HX520, assuming this road isn't mud, I could probably get up into high range for a little bit. But like this section, yeah, it'd be a little bit hit and miss. But either way, I've only got to drive up the rest of this road anyway, so it was going to be one way or the other. I was either going to drive the HX520 and tow the goddamn horse behind me. But as I was tipping, and there's a bit coming up, and this was more the bit I was curious about myself. In this situation, you see how like there's tension on the winch from the bumper of the HX to my loaf. If your truck goes to tip, and especially because this thing kind of can stop dead in mud, imagine it like riding a bike. Going 10 miles an hour forwards, it's very easy to remain stable on a bike. Stable horse. But if you 0 to 1 mile an hour on a bike, it's a lot harder to remain stable. If you're always pulling on that winch, when your truck starts to tip, sometimes it's like it hasn't got time to tip because it's being pulled from the front and it's trying to then move forward and kind of land back on its wheels. It doesn't quite tip because to be fair, I'm kind of over to the right a bit. You can see the trailer went, thankfully, but again, that's where I'm flooring it forwards, because if you sit there enough, the trailer can tip and then carry the truck over. But if you're going forwards all the time, it just doesn't always have enough weight and momentum to carry you with it. Yeah, I mean, again, with a horse, he is a he's an absolute unit. He's got some muscle to him. He's a muscly little horse. It's stuff like that. The fact that he can just shove a trailer out of the way while I'm towing a truck and a trailer with some cargo in it. There ain't many other scouts. I know, like, fair enough, obviously the Tatran would knock that out of the way for fun, but I can't fit a Tatran in the sideboard. If I want to tow a Tatran behind me, it's going to force me to go, like, at that speed it makes you go when you tow anything behind you. But the loaf, because like I said, he's weightless unless he needs to be, you tow the loaf behind a truck and you can still go into high gear and all the rest of it. Yeah, so there's no punishment there. And then now, I think both trucks kind of... There's a little patch of mud. But yeah, do the zombie winch thing. Just hit triangle and then... It's funny, because when you do zombie winch, that's what I mean. Like, that river I was sort of got slowed down in a bit earlier. There's certain sections, though, where zombie winching is, like... It's the best option for whatever reason. There might be, like, a little bonus that the game lets you have. In other ways, there isn't. It doesn't let you use the high gear and all the rest of it. But when it comes to a vehicle right behind you and you hold the winch button, it pretty much always just keeps ploughing forward. And I learned that back in the day with my double loafs, friend loafs on I can't remember the phase. Oh no, it wasn't even the phase, it was Rift. It was the map we got kind of before they did phase 1. Yeah, and it works. Just went to drop it off there earlier on the trailer tip, so the cargo wasn't packed, so it wasn't registering that I had any. But we got that done, got the mission done. To be fair, it's not that much of a bad payout. I can't quite see it now. Was it like $6 or something for just a little trip like that? It's not. Again, money doesn't really matter anymore because I've just basically used the money mod. And then I went for a drive with the loaf. I edited most of it out because I drove around for quite a while. I'm just showing you how you see loaf. If he wants to jump over a tree stump, he can. Rubs his cock on it. Now he owns it. Done. We're on our way. Whereas would be willing to bet the HX520 would hit that and get stuck for fun. That's one nice thing with the loaf. He's got like his underside is completely smooth, so he doesn't get caught on a lot. Even this one as well. So yep, over that tree stump, we own it. And at this point, I could have just kept going. I think the garage is only up the road, but yeah. It's kind of, it must have been now when I was like, oh yeah, shit, save the footage. And that's why I lost like the first 15 seconds odd of, see again, the loaf must have been telepathically screaming to me to pull over. Like, pull over or you'll lose more footage. And if I lost even like 10 seconds more footage, it would have really bothered me. I'm only not that bothered because I'd literally turned left out of the garage and it was like on my left. And then lastly, driving along, I just, after a while, jumped in the HX, dropped the hammer. You can see though, pretty quick, I hit a tyre and popped a tyre. Maybe you can put a spare tyre on this. I actually don't know if you can, but if you can, it's going to sit under the sideboard somewhere and be another thing you can catch. If I had the goddamn horse of me, he's got 4 tyres, he's got repairs, he's got fuel, he can do it all. Yeah, but I left this in because it was just a little thing at the end where I actually just, yeah, dropped the hammer. I got a little bit lucky there because there's a bit of a dip there where you catch your nose. I kind of had a fortunate bounce and yeah, so I just kind of got to sail over that pretty easily. But as you can see, as long as it's like a dirt road, yeah, as soon as that mud started splashing, and now it slows you down pretty quick, but they're tiny little patches, and then you're back onto what appears to be more yet like dirt. It's not deep, sloppy mud. Or again, there's probably like a tiny patch there. So for certain missions, if you haven't got a hell of a lot to do, you know, I tried to go over that tree stump. I missed going over with the front, but the fact that it caught the side of the truck light and stopped me dead, it's kind of pretty safe to say it wouldn't be making it over a tree stump. I wouldn't, out of most trucks, I wouldn't expect this one to either, because I think it's got 47-inch tyres, which are not ruthless, but kind of want over 50, 51. That's what she said. Yeah, anyway, that's about it for today, though. I hope you enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Get yourself a loaf, because he's a goddamn horse of a vehicle. And I'll be back soon.